Revolutionary Guard is a foreign terrorist organization and imposed sanctions on Iran. Do you support the sanctions?
Absolutely. I think that's the right way to go. In fact, we'll be dealing with that legislation in the committee I serve on. That's the appropriate way to go. What is not the right way to go, in my view, is the resolution adopted several weeks ago in the Senate with a large vote here, which almost exclusively focused on the military option in Iran. Iran poses some serious issues. Certainly the accumulation or the possibility of accumulating nuclear weapons, obviously supporting terrorism in the region, are serious questions that the United States has to address. The best way to approach that at this juncture is through the sanctions, the diplomatic approach, in my view, building the relationships that we need to build in order to effectively convince the Iranians that their direction they're going in is one they have to stop. And that's my concern. This vote the other day seems to belie that approach on sanctions and diplomacy.
But back in March, Senator, you were a co-sponsor of a resolution that said this: the Secretary of State should designate the Iranian Revolutionary Guard as a foreign terrorist organization. The Secretary of the Treasury should place the Iranian Revolutionary Guards on the list of specially designated global terrorists relating to blocking property, prohibiting transactions with persons who commit, threaten to commit, or support terrorism. What's the difference?
Well, a huge difference, Tim. That was the Gordon Smith bill, which he introduced, 68 of his co-sponsors, Senator Kennedy, myself, Jim Webb, among others, here. That one's exclusively focused on diplomacy and sanctions, and specifically said no military action should be taken in Iran without the prior approval of the Congress. Very, very different approaches than the resolution offered by Senators Kyle and Lieberman, which the language on diplomacy and sanctions was removed before the final vote. The only reference there was keeping a military force possibly in Iraq in order to deal with the Iranian situation. Very, very different. Jim Webb vehemently opposed the Kyle Lieberman resolution. In fact, one of the leaders in the opposition to it, along with Dick Lugar, along with Chuck Hagel. They were bipartisan opposition to that approach. And the approach, obviously, that Gordon Smith suggested was one that enjoyed broad-based support because it was more expansive and included other options other than just the military one.
But the resolution you're talking about by Senator Kyle and Senator Lieberman received almost 3/4 of the Senate. And it did mention diplomacy.
No, that language was taken out, Tim, specifically taken out. The paragraph referring to diplomacy and economics. And that's the resolution you're going to see. What didn't we learn from October 2002, in a sense? The administration clearly is on a drumbeat here, given the Cheney speeches by the Vice President Cheney's speeches, the announcement the other day, even though including sanctions. Clearly this administration is moving in that direction towards military action against Iran. And I believe that you'll see clearly, and those who supported that resolution on September 26th, that'll be one of the justifications that the Bush administration gives for military action in Iran if it comes. And I believe we're getting precariously close to that happening. That's why I think that vote was so dangerous.
You think we're getting precariously close to military action against Iran?
I think clearly the administration seems to be pointing in that direction. And I think that's a dangerous move at this juncture here. And again, I'm not going to take a backseat to anyone on my concerns about the problems that Iran poses here. And I would not exclude the use of military force in dealing with that. But it seems to me that arrow ought not to be drawn out of our quiver until we examine and explore fully the opportunities to reduce those threats, much as the administration has now done in North Korea. For 6 years, they objected to the approach that the Clinton administration took on North Korea. They finally came to that point of view, and today you don't hear much talk about North Korea because I think we've handled that well in the last couple of months. But here in Iran, I think clearly there's an effort to pursue a military action.
Do you believe that, in effect, the vote for the resolution of September 26th, one of them was cast by Hillary Clinton?
Yes, it was
A de facto vote for war with Iran?
I think it gives a justification for it. That's my concern with it here. Much as you saw back in 2002 in October, the resolution, which I supported at the time, said the president ought to look at diplomatic approaches in that language, but clearly had no intention of doing that, as we subsequently learned. And it gave them the argument that the Congress gave overwhelming support, almost by the same vote, I might add. There were only 23 votes against that resolution in October of 2002. About 75, 76 votes in favor of it. So the similarities are startling in my view, and it was used and waved back over and over again. Congress and the Democrats went along with this. What haven't we learned over that time here? It seems to me that's why that vote was such a bad one, and I think Mrs. Clinton, my colleague from New York, cast the wrong vote on that issue, terribly so.